one of the things we thought we would do this year is to offer a short little webinar for our county cattlemen boards that were interested in learning some of the basic things related to preparation for grilling. And so we'll cover those today. A couple housekeeping items that we have for you. You all are going to be placed on mute, will be throughout the webinar. That just helps with the bandwidth and making sure everything runs smoothly on our end. But you can ask questions, and so if you want to submit them through the chat to the host, Iowa Cattlemen's Association. That's very important. When we've done these before, I think there's been a little challenge in doing that. So make sure you're looking at the chat to the host with the Iowa Cattlemen's Association as being where you're submitting those questions. Those will only be received on our end. We'll get to those, either respond to those directly to you, or obviously at the as the each segment of the presentation ends, we will take time for those questions as well. We are recording this for later viewing for those that aren't able to attend throughout the day today. As you think about and you remember, our mission is to grow Iowa's beef cattle business through advocacy, leadership, and education. The advocacy piece is a big component. If you haven't taken time to see the Cattlemen's Compass webinar with an update from Kelly Klink, our government relations staff person, and Jake Swanson, our lobbyist, I'd encourage you to do so. The leadership aspect is very important. Our board is really working on engagement this year. And then also our ICLP class has been very busy and active, and just had a trip up to Upper Iowa Beef and also to a couple of our past board members' operations that are in the succession planning process as well. And I think Bob Noble, I think I saw him on there. That was one of the places they visited. So we thank them for allowing that group up there. And then obviously education. And it is important education related to best practices. When we think about food preparation, we think about food safety, that it is a very important aspect to what we do. So we are ready to get started. Today, we're very fortunate to have Doug Voss. Doug is the grill manager at the beef quarters at the Iowa State Fair. Some of you may be familiar with him or may met him in the past. Also works for Cisco Foods in another role as well. So Doug is on to provide us a little overview and some things to think about in terms of best practices as we get into grilling season. I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. And we're going to talk about some different things and share a PowerPoint with you. And one thing I'm going to encourage you is, as we go through these things, if there's things that you still have questions, reach out. There's a lot of resources out there that you can actually reach out to and ask questions. And your local health inspectors. I mean, the Iowa Beef Industry Council has a lot of different things that you could actually reach out to and look to also. I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint here just to kind of keep us on track. Okay, hopefully everybody can see the first slide okay?
Doug, I don't have it on my screen.
You don't have it. Okay, let me see here. Let's get this, see what we got here.
Make him a co-host. Are you able to? You should
I'm
be
not
a
able. I got.
co-host. Are you able to?
Okay. Did that start? Did that do anything good?
Yeah, we can see your screen, so You can get to your PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay, we there?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Just put it in presenter mode, and I think you'll be okay.
All right. Sounds good. Sorry about that trouble there, but um, Iowa Beef Industry Council just has a lot of different links here and things that you could actually reach out to and just, how to and things to think about. I mean, safe beef for country grilling, the regulations, temporary food events, Iowa State Extension. There's food stand operations. There's food safety tips, test strips for your sanitizing solutions, but just a lot of different things that you could actually reach out and have questions and everybody's idea or things about how things should be are different. But I think the best thing is to reach out to a local health inspector to get some information and do's and don'ts because they're going to be ones checking up on you anyway. So this just a good resource here to use and start out with. So, okay, so a grill manager role, I don't know. I guess it's the like I said, out at the beef quarters at the fair. It's been a learning experience. It's been a great experience for me, and we deal with a lot of volunteers, which would be impossible to do without them. And we get two different shift changes every day, and we get a lot of repeat people that have done it for a lot of years, and it's important that you know sometimes I'm probably not the most popular person because I like to have things done a special way or a specific way, and the big thing is I want things to the price of beef and everything that's going on. We want to make sure that the customer is getting a good value and getting a good quality product. um, Things change every year, and we have to retrain twice a day when we get two different shifts in. But it's important to me that if we get a Facebook post or we get a Instagram or we get a negative review on anything that came from the kitchen, that's on me, and I really want to prevent that at all cost. The state fair is a big event, but it's a small world because there's people that volunteer at different things, and you hear different things going on in the kitchen with different folks. And unfortunately, for me, it's a career, and my name's on it. For some people, it's fun. It's just a social engagement. Not that anything goes wrong, but if sometimes I'm going to correct people. I'm going to ask them to do things a certain way because I think it's important. We're representing the beef industry in the council, and we're trying to have a good time at the fair and serve a lot of people and make sure we can come back next year and make improvements and keep things moving. So, as the grill manager role, I mean, sometimes it's buddies getting together just to have fun, which is okay as long as things are conducted and handled the way that you'd like them to be. And like I said, social media can hurt you or it can help you. So we want to make sure it's helping us all the time, and getting people in there as much as we can. Some of the some of the things that when we go out and get the beef quarters ready, we're out there weeks in advance doing some cleaning and getting things ready. But some things that basic things that you should have, and the health inspector is always going to come through, and they come through before we're open, the day we're open, and then they also come back again. But some things to think about, and a fire extinguisher is a must. And you can use you might talk to your local fire department. Sometimes a CO2 fire extinguisher is a good one to do. And sometimes there's powdered different chemicals. I mean, a CO2 one isn't as messy as other ones. So you might want to check your fire codes and make sure that you do have a fire extinguisher. Of course, sanitizer, if it's a ready to use sanitizer, or if you have tablets in a bucket, that is a definite must to have. The gloves, they're hard. It's kind of a hard thing to police, and glove sizes and people's sizes of gloves are different. But I think it's nice you need to have gloves there. Make sure if they wearing gloves that you're actually rotating and cleaning them, and making sure you're keeping up with safe handling of your products. Oven mitts are a must. I mean, you're going to need those at some point in time. Taking things off the grill, on the grill, moving things around. Nice set of oven mitts are a good benefit. Probably one of the most used pieces of equipment is a thermometer. I'd encourage you to get a digital thermometer. You don't have to have one for every person that's on the grill, but the persons on the grill need to have access. and the health inspector, will want to know and make sure you have access to a digital thermometer or a thermometer. And of course, the spatula. One thing on the spatula, depending upon how long or how wide your grill is, you want to make sure you've got a good length on it, so you're not, burning or setting things on the grill when they're hot. But you want to make sure your handles are long enough to do an adequate job when you're working on the grill. A couple other things just to think about. I mean, you're going to need some trash bags, some good clean aprons, or nice to have too. Um, a lot of times at the fair, people are wearing hats already. So that's kind of a thing. But kind of keep in mind the hats and keeping the hair pulled back for the ladies. Tongs, a nice long tong sometimes is recommended too. And I like to use a tong with steaks because sometimes I think you turn them a little more gently. Sometimes with a spatula, I think you get them up in the air and you're pressing on them too much. So just a nice couple sets of tongs to have. This item down in the corner, it's hard to see, but this is it's a food insert pan. It's a heat ready, it's an oven ready, 400 degrees pan liner. So if you're going to put anything in a pan that's going to continue to cook, and we want to kind of be conscientious of the dishwasher, and these pan liners are really nice to put into pans, and it really saves on cleanup and messes and helping with the dishwasher at the end of the shifts. Plastic wrap is good to have also to keep things covered up and keep things hot. And then aluminum foil. I think those are two things that, I think you should have somewhere or have access to them. Of course, aluminum foil for heat. Plastic wrap will go into a warmer just well also, but two nice things just to have in case you need those as well. A couple other things to think about. A scraper. A lot of times there's been some bad publicity on the wire brush, as far as brushes. So a good scraper on the grill is nice to keep that clean, keeping that ready, nice and hot. A Sharpie. Sharpie is good when you're covering pans. You can put number one, two, three, or you can rotate them. Use first, use second. So you're making sure you're rotating and keeping things moving as fast as you can. Trash cans, sometimes we get those. Everybody wants to have the 55-gallon brute trash cans, but they get a little clumsy, and they're if you're tight on space, it's kind of hard to get those big trash cans. So this is kind of what they call a Slim Jim, which it kind of can go in a corner. You can move it around. Doesn't take up as much space as those big brutes, but just to be on a working surface or a prep area, that Slim Jim trash can is a nice way. And we actually ordered a couple more because to have them in the kitchen for the upcoming year as well. Lighting the grill, a nice propane tank is a torch is nice to have. Even if you're using charcoal, sometimes lighter fluids or fluids when you start charcoal and maybe give an off flavor to your grilling or your taste on your beef and your burgers. So just having a nice propane torch is nice for lighting the gas, and it could work for your charcoal situations as well. A couple other things, and we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into a little bit more of this, but having half pans versus a full pan, and you see the half pans are up here. And when you're cooking burgers and steaks, the less you have to handle them, I think the better the product is. A lot of times, at the fair, we were taking product, putting it in a pan, dumping it in another pan, dumping it into another pan, and we were getting a lot of breakage on our burgers. So we actually went to a half pan, and we changed the half pans throughout the whole system now, so we don't handle the burgers as much. And we took our breakage on burgers down 50% this year over a year ago. And you think about a burger on a bun, oh, it's not that big a deal, but that's $10 out the door. I mean, that's a $10 bill that's, you're able to sell if everything goes correctly into the system. So having some stainless steel pans are a must. Having a Cambro or having a steam well steam wells are a big thing because they keep the product moist and you can control the heat on them. So those are having, access to, it could be electric roaster if that's what you have available, but being able to make sure you're keeping your food safe and hot and above that 140 degrees, and whatever type of equipment you have is, whatever you're working with, just make sure it's hot and ready to go when you're starting to fill up those cavities. Um, Health inspector, some things that the health inspector is going to want to, um, make sure that you have or you should have. They're going to want access to a hand sink or a portable unit, some way that you can get some water and sanitizer, that you can just make sure you're keeping up with cleanliness. The sanitizer we talked about, the thermometer. I mean, that's a big one. We got to have that, and that's something they're going to ask about. And the holding units, a minimum of 140 degrees. So, throughout the day or the time, as you're feeding, I mean, make sure your holding areas are up to temperature for sure. And then your ground beef needs to be a minimum of 155 coming off the grill. This is kind of I really encourage to use the thermometer as much as you can. I mean, we've all done this for a lot long years, and we know it and how to do things. But it's kind of funny. I've been doing this a while, and if I want to make sure I'm really on and something is just right, I make sure I do temp it. And that 155 degrees it's where that burger is going to be. It's not overdone. It's not underdone. You're going to be able to hold that, and that's going to be at the right temperature for a food safety situation as well. And sometimes I ran into an issue last year where there was, a gentleman that was actually taking the burgers and cutting them half. Well, how do you serve that? And I said, hey, just use the thermometer. And I mean, he goes, well, that's what I do at home. And I said, I understand that, but every time you cut one in half, we lose $10 because we can't serve that burger. So, and it's kind of funny that to see the people gravitate and they're kind of thinking about, hey, that could be done or it's not done, but just using that thermometer just really ensures that they're doing the right thing. Your tongs and spatulas, just if they ever ask you or they want to know, hey, how often do you clean and sanitize? It needs to be done every shift or every 4 hours. So anything that you're using on the grill, just make sure you're having some kind of a cleanliness program where you're doing that every 4 hours. And when you do that several times a day, it helps keeping them clean. It helps with food getting burned on and then caked on to make it harder to clean also. They're also going to ask sometimes. We have several people that are ServSafe certified. So we actually have the certificates hanging in the beef quarters. So if that's something that's a requirement or you're going to do, just make sure you have your ServSafe certification. I think they last for 5 years, and then you have to re-up them. Another thing is to keep a list of your products with ingredients. Can be helpful when customers have food allergies, and this gets bigger and bigger every year. It can be a gluten allergy, it could be a seasoning allergy, it could be an MSG allergy. So we keep a record of everything that we use, right down to the seasoning salt, salt and pepper. I mean, we actually have everything broken down, and somebody will say, well, I can't, even if it's a seasoning salt, some people say, well, I can't have this because that's in there. I mean, they know pretty well what they could and couldn't have, but having a copy of that just to be able to show them or have labels, that's a big item. That comes up several times and a lot more than it has in the past. The next thing to kind of think about is eating in the grill area. It's a tough one because if a burger gets broke or a steak or something that doesn't look right, I mean, it's hard to police it, but if we can encourage our staff to, hey, let's go over and take a break off to the side, wash your hands, come back and get back and help us, get through it. Maybe it's being picky, but at any given time, the health inspector is going to come in and they could ask you about how you handle that or why are they doing that type thing. So, and of course, the dating of your production for raw and cooked products. So making sure you've got a date on it. If it's cooked and raw and you're holding it, that is a big thing to keep track of. And hopefully your raw product has a production date on it when you're getting into it. But for sure, a cooked product that you're going to hold and cool down and reheat, that needs to have a date on it as well. in the grilling area, a big thing in the kitchen, and another thing that's hard to police, but it gets hot and everybody wants to cool down, and we want everyone to be safe and we to stay hydrated. But they want lids on all the cups. If it's pop or water, the health inspector wants to have a lid and a straw in the cups. So we get a cup, write your name on it, but just be able to have those drinks covered is a big thing they look for also. um, as you're cooking, and it's easy to say, well, it's busy, and just to throw that raw product and have it on the shelf, and you're just working out of it as you're cooking. But try to keep that on ice or in a cool spot. If you're not going to do the whole case, only get out what you need, and keep that raw product in the refrigeration so it keeps integrity and you don't break that cold chain on it as well. So here's just some suggestions, and we touched a little bit about these two, or some things that just kind of, yeah, I look for, or have kind of done years. But we talked about the having the thermometer, cutting into any protein, a steak or a burger. What you're doing is you're making a slice in that product, and you're making a way to escape your flavor and moisture out of the product. So that thermometer in the side, a 6 ounce ribeye is hard to do. It's kind of more of a timing or a look type thing, to your specifications. But steak, the burgers for sure. Let's get that thermometer and keep that right on. Sometimes when we're working with burgers and steaks, I mean, turning a burger the least amount of is the most juicier, more flavor. Pressing on with a spatula, you're removing moisture and flavor from the product. And sometimes people get a little nervous, or they feel like they should be doing something. But when you press on a burger, and the more you flip it, you're putting more grease, more flavor out of it, and you're setting up a more flare up on the grill too. So we talked a little bit about handling of the beef patties. I mean, the more you turn them, the more you flip them, the more you put them in one pan, put them in another pan, and another pan. Just try to have a way or a vehicle to go from the grill to your warmer to your serving line, and not have to dump them into several pans, just to be able to keep that breakage down. That's a big thing for you. When in the burgers and steaks, adding some beef stock or au jus can keep them moist while holding them. Keeps a little moisture in them, keeps some flavor in them. You don't want them swimming in it, but just having a nice base on the bottom of those pans will help you keep those things fresh and flavorful. And um, and then also the biggest thing is keep things fresh and moving. It's easy when you're busy, but at slow times, and there's a lot of times, I mean, we're starting off the grill at the beef quarters. Let's put on 4 cases, and let's fill these pans, and then we'll wait a few minutes and put on 2 cases. And then at the end of the night, I mean, it's 9 o'clock, or it's 8:30. We're cooking 2 packs of burgers, 3 packs, and just trying to keep up with things. So when we don't have a lot of leftovers, and to have a better product. So, I mean, keeping it fresh and moving, that's easy when you're busy, but when it slows down, that's where it gets kind of difficult. On the grill, I mean, look to identify hot spots on the grill. So then when you know where to place your grilling items, steaks might work better on a hotter side than the burgers. And just to kind of, as you get started and you start cooking, I mean, you'll kind of know your hot spots. And if you're on the first shift, you might just say, hey, I just, in case you look, and this is a hot spot, to tell the guys coming in behind you, or to share what's worked best with you. The grill changes so much on wind and draft, and how hot, how cold, and different things. So having a little bit of a ground rule, or just some kind of what's the grill like, I mean, that's just a nice, good way to, keep up with things too. And so if there is a flare up on the grill, and this is just kind of something that's worked for me, and I always keep some 5 gallon buckets of pickle juice with a squirt bottle. And I actually squirt a little pickle juice on the fire. I don't want to, it's not like you're just want to like dump the whole 5 gallon bucket, but you can kind of control that heat. And it seems like the vinegar and the salt and the pickle juice is a nice way to capsulize that fire. We know we don't want to put water on a grease fire, because we know what that'll do. And sometimes, it's just nice to, you want to have a backup plan. If something gets out of line, or you get something that gets really hot and you get a fire going, that pickle juice seems to be a good item for us, and I keep it handy right by the grill. As you're grilling your product, I mean, I would use some salt, pepper, some Lowry seasoning or seasoning salt. I mean, some people use Montreal, but I think adding a seasoning to your burgers and steaks, it just that salt kind of just capsulizes and gives it a nice flavor. And it's not like you're putting on 3 coats of paint, but a nice base of seasoning on both sides of those your product. I think that's a nice way to just making sure you're doing all you can to have the best product out there. If you have any leftovers, make sure that you're putting those, a metal pan is best, because it's going to transfer the heat out quicker than plastic or glass. Divide a bigger portions down into smaller portions. So they're going to actually, you want them to cool as quick as they can and loosely cover them. The health inspector at the beef quarters does go into the cooler and say, hey, how long has this been here? And, you should have a time and a date when you put that in there, because if it's above a certain temperature or not cooling correctly, they're going to ask you about that as well. So it's good to have, that information. And I think the best thing is to work with a health inspector and have good information and, have answers for them when they ask questions. Another quick tip is just, on the steaks, I'm sure we're versed in this, but, try to have your steak cuts aged 21 days just to break down those fibers and tenderness. And, just once again, that's just a nice way to, you got to plan ahead. I mean, when we bring in our product for the beef quarters, I mean, we're going to have it in and start ready to age the second week of July. And so it's ready in that second week of August. And, 21 is the minimum. You can go more if you need to, but that's just on the steak cuts that the burgers, we want those as fresh as we can. But just another thing to think about is to make sure you plan ahead and have that product aged and ready to go when you're ready. So that's, it's probably things that you guys have all heard before. You've been through it before, you've done those things, but it's just nice to be able to just have a little overview of everything. And just to kind of give you some checkpoints or some things to think about. So it's just kind of some things off the cuff and things that have worked for me. And once again, ask questions and do the right thing and whatever works for your environment. And we always try to tweak and make things better every year. So
Okay, very good, Doug. Thank you for that oversight. We do have a couple questions that are coming in that if we'll take time to answer some questions for you now. So, okay, so the first question, are there any rules or differences for a county grilling team that's going from location to location? A lot of our county cattlemen's boards have grills that travel, right? So you covered a lot of things, and obviously with the cattlemen's beef quarters is a stationary thing. Are there any differences in some of the things that you talked about when you're traveling versus when you have a stationary or a permanent location?
I would think they're pretty much dual purpose. I think the pretty much a good carryover if that's product. I know the hand sink might be kind of hard where you have to set up some garden hose or sanitary water, a washing station type thing. I think the safety and the thermometers and having the things that we kind of talk about are dual purpose. And the hand sinks would be the tough one if you're going to be out and about. But I think I would have a tote or a kit that has all those things in there that you need and be ready to go if you're on to the next one.
Okay. Hot waters sometimes can be a challenge with those as
It
well
can
too,
be. Yep.
right?
Yes, it can be for sure.
Okay, so the next question that's come in is, so this is on residual cooking. So after steaks and burgers come off the grill,
Yep.
if they're sitting there for a while before they're serving, is it okay if they would maybe undercook a little if you know that they're going to sit before they're going to be served? Or what's the recommendation or thought process there?
And that's really a kind of a gray area, but the health inspector says it needs to be at 155. So that's kind of a no dicker sticker. I mean, the burgers need to be cooked to a 155. I wouldn't, you wouldn't want to go real raw and then hope they get there, because how long are you going to hold them? That's kind of the thought process. So the burger needs to be 155. I think on the steaks, you've got a little more freedom there. It's hard to temperature, a thin steak, but I think on the grill, it's a judgment call how long you're going to hold them. And I think the other thing to think about is you can cook steaks pretty quickly, so you want to cook less more often. But if those are in a warmer too long, you might think about putting fresh ones out there. But the steaks, I wish I had a better answer for you. I think you can undercook a steak a little bit more and get away with it, as long as the customer isn't it's not too, customer, maybe it's too raw and the customer says, oh, I don't want that raw one. So I think you still need to have, if you go to that medium rare, pull it and then hope to serve it at medium is probably okay.
Okay, very good. Those were a couple questions that have come in so far. Again, if you have questions that you want to ask Doug, or as we get into another segment here, go to that host Iowa Cattlemen Association and you can submit your question there at that time. Okay, I'll give it just a second, see if anything else comes in. If not, we'll jump on to the next section and we'll see what else comes in here, Doug, if you have time to stay on. So,
Sounds good.
um, okay. Well, thanks, Doug, and we'll see what if we get any more questions come in here. The next section we wanted to cover a little bit today is to talk about the county grilling insurance coverage. Uh, we last at the end of last year, we as the association did a review of our insurance coverages. And a lot of this came from conversations I had throughout the state with other producer members and the county cattlemen's boards about what kind of coverage was out there and are we covered to the level that we needed to have. And so we know that you play a vital role, obviously, in the promotion of beef out there when you're doing the grillings and representing the industry and all of the educational programs. I know we've had a lot of county cattlemen out grilling already for Beef Month for schools as they wrap up their school year, which is great. So we just wanted to make sure that we had you covered the best that we could. And so we did a review last year. I think it was about this time, April, May timeframe. We asked some questions to counties and said, what are those things that are missing with the policy? What are some things you'd like to have? And so we went out and looked at that. We did a request for proposals. And then in September, our board took all of those proposals under advisement, and we did make some changes to our insurance packages that we were able to get. Some of the benefits of doing that, obviously, is as a county cattlemen's group and putting it under the ICA policy, obviously that gives you more buying power. We're able to get a little bit cheaper premium per county, which makes that really beneficial. We were able to add some things that we were not able to have before within that policy for a very little premium increase. And so the board made that decision. Then in October, we submitted a letter to all the county presidents, and hopefully you discussed those, made that decision to accept and buy into this insurance. And we did have some counties that decided not to, which is completely fine. But this was an option for all of you. So what I wanted to do today is just go over that policy. I know we've shared a couple different things throughout that time frame. We've shared some things, I think, through our member services emails that go out to your county boards. But I wanted to take time to cover a few things. The first thing that I will tell you is one of the things we learned really quickly when we did kind of our review is there was a lot of county cattlemen's groups that did not have just any type of general liability coverage whatsoever. And so that was something that we looked at is could we do just a general liability coverage? And then what does that look like as we tie that into our grilling coverage? In the past, that grilling coverage was specifically designated to grilling events only. We did have in the past have something for banquets and that those aspects that you were doing, especially if you were doing an educational event. but we wanted to try to expand that a little bit. We were able to do that. So you can see on the screen here, I've put those coverages up. The county general liability, you can see it's a 2 million occurrence. Um, and then the grilling event coverage, we were able to double that. Previously, it had been a 1 million occurrence on those things. So we were able to double that and go to a 2 million occurrence and then a 4 million aggregate there. So that was that just making sure that all of our counties had some general basic liability coverage was very important, as well as obviously to continue that grilling insurance also. That those two coverages then provide protection for your functions that you have, your meetings, fundraisers, any of those events that are organized by your county cattlemen's associations. And then also in the other things that are parts of that is those grilling promotions, the community cookouts, your foodborne illness, your any those types of things that came out of that as well. So I think we added on some coverage, which was really good for our county cattlemen's groups. The other piece was a volunteer medical protection. Your grilling event coverage does give coverage for if you would have an accident or something that relates to that. You have an individual who's participating in an event. Let's say something happens. There was a medical coverage for that, but there wasn't something for our volunteer board members that were actually grilling. And so we wanted to make sure that that was a component, a secondary component up to a $5,000 deductible for those. So if there would be something happens and a county cattleman member that's grilling gets burnt, has to go to the hospital or something, we have some insurance and some assistance there was very important as well. The other thing that was unique, and Idaho didn't think we could even do this, but we were able to work on it, was a non-owned auto policy, which is basically a secondary coverage for towing. So if whoever's towing that grill, there would be coverage for that as a secondary auto coverage. Typically the insurance goes with whoever's towing that vehicle or that grill or trailer or whatever you're towing. In this case, we also were able to add on this non-owned auto piece for that. So I think as you look at what some of the coverages we added on and increased for our county cattlemen's groups, and the premium was only a $30 additional increase on that premium per county for this last year. So I think it serves you well to have all of those protections in place as you go out and do your events. Some of the things that were not covered. The one thing I want to talk about is just property insurance on your grills. If you have a grill stored at a location, in a shed somewhere, or you have a trailer or any of your equipment, this does not cover any of that property insurance. There's no coverage on that property that you own from a county cattleman's. It's strictly just on the coverages that we outlined above. And then you can get certificates of insurance, which I would, if you need those and somebody requests those, if you're renting a location, they typically will request a certificate of insurance, and we can provide those for you. I gave Lauren Gehring, who's at the insurance company insurance carrier agent that we use. That is who you can contact directly there to get a certificate of insurance. We can do that for you as well. Our member services team know exactly how to do that and to who to contact for that. So if you need that assistance, you can call the office and we can help you get that done as well. So there's just a good overview of some of the insurance coverages that we have in place for our county cattlemen's boards as you're going out and doing your grillings throughout the summer and throughout the year as well. This is an annual renewal, so we'll renew this coming up in September. I do not expect any changes to the plan. We went through that last year, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to stick with this for a significant amount of time. Very happy with we were able to extend some additional coverages that some of our county cattlemen's boards had requested as well. Okay. Happy to take questions related to that, or any questions that if that you might have thought of since then for Doug. Can you scroll down questions? I'm looking to see if there's any questions over here on my screen. Okay, take a minute here and see what. Okay, there's no, I don't even see anybody typing. Uh, so, if you have questions related to any of the content that was presented here today, or specifically related to grilling insurance, we're happy to help. I would reference if the county presidents still have the letter and the comparison and the information we had sent them back in October. That would be a good reference point. If not, we can definitely share that information again. Um, uh, okay, so we did have one question come in. Does the policy need to be supplemented with anything for our local group? It does not, unless you want to add on any of that property insurance specifically to your grill, to your equipment, or to your trailer. I know some of the counties previously had their own general liability insurance in addition to what we had for grilling insurance, because before we didn't have that. Now we do. And so they were able to cancel their previous general liability and go with this, which was a one package deal. But the only thing you wouldn't want to add on is if you want to insure your grill, your trailers, any of the equipment that you might have. Yes, this will be available to watch later. We'll post it and share that out. I think we'll probably definitely put it probably in our member services communication that'll go out since it's more specific for county boards, but we'll also share that out when it gets posted here. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking time to join us today. I know a lot of you, well, we had a little rain probably overnight, so probably aren't finishing up in the fields or doing any of those things. I hope you had a great spring, and appreciate all you do from the county cattlemen's perspective and the work that you do, not only promoting beef, but the work in the communities throughout the state. I commend you for all of the time and the commitment that you have, and obviously then also supporting the association as we continue to advocate for you on a daily basis. And we will wish you a happy May Beef Month as we conclude today. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you do have questions, our phone number for the office is on the screen right now. But enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for tuning in.